Hi guys, welcome back to the FitRefresh channel. My name is Sarah Martinez. I am a health coach and weight loss specialist. I help my clients lose weight or attain their goals without using weird gimmicks and confusing information. So every week I do a new topic. Today's topic is one that I get questions about all the time. So I'm really happy to bring you this content. It's about intermittent fasting. Who is it for? What is it? What are the benefits? What's bad about it? We're going to talk about it all. So let's go. All right, guys, you know the drill. Subscribe to this channel. And if you like this content, please like it. So that way I know that this is content you want to see more of. I also really encourage you to ask your questions. Of course, I'll always jump on here, answer questions where I can, and give you the point in the right direction. So I want to jump right into the material today. We're talking about intermittent fasting. This is probably like a number one question I get from, I don't know, almost everybody. When people are asking me about diets, what diets work, what don't, almost everyone says, well, what do you think about intermittent fasting? So the first thing I kind of want to go over before we start is just kind of generally talk about fasting in general. So people ask me all the time, intermittent fasting, is it a good way to go? Is intermittent fasting bad for you? Fasting's been used for centuries. I mean, more than that. I mean, forever, fasting's been a part of society. So a couple of the main reasons people have used fasting in the past for medical use. So I love this quote. It says, fasting is the greatest remedy, the physician within. A lot of, previous years in society just started to realize that if you fast, it allows the body to kind of start to eat itself, which of course gets us into that realm of starving, right? But in that case, it would also help eat illnesses and get rid of certain like common ailments. Of course, now we have medication and we're not using fasting necessarily for those purposes at this point. Of course, as we all know, religiously, many people use fasting as a way to, show appreciation for their God or their spirit. And that, of course, has been utilized throughout centuries and centuries. So obviously, fasting has come into a lot of different categories. And now we use it a lot to be able to incorporate into like health and fitness realm, which is, of course, the part that we're going to talk about today. So here's our topic, intermittent fasting. What are the benefits, the drawbacks, how and who should be doing it? These are key points to be able to know whether it is something that is right for you. So what is intermittent fasting? It's not necessarily a diet per se, it's more of an eating pattern. So in this eating pattern, a person would cycle between periods of fasting and eating throughout a given period of time. Generally, when we're talking about intermittent fasting, people look at it as over a 7-day or a week period of time when it comes to fasting. There are some popular methods for intermittent fasting that have been kind of more commonly accepted. One of them is the 16-8 method. So that is 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. And that would be a daily thing every day, all the time. So that's the more common of the intermittent fasting programs. Now, I've met a few people that have tried to do like 12 hours of fasting. The reality is that it really takes about 14 to 16 hours for your body to actually go into that process of ketosis. So changing it into a place where you're burning primarily fat as your storage instead of carbs. So really doing less than 16 hours, you're already kind of giving yourself an edge down and not doing it right. Now, another option that people do is a 24-hour period of fasting at least 2 times in a 7-day period. Now, the idea is that you wouldn't consecutively do those. You'd do them at separate times or you'd have a couple days between them. But it'd be a full 24 hours of no eating. The last one is probably the more common than the 2 24-hour periods, is the idea that you would do 2 days a week of 500 to 600 calories on those days, and then all the other days you'd eat your regular allotment of calories and not go for those fasting. So that's for somebody who maybe can't do a full 24 hours, but might need a little bit of support at different points of the day. What I want to talk about first are benefits, the benefits of the intermittent fasting pattern diet, or pattern program. So the number one major plus on it is, of course, weight loss. So when you're fasting, obviously you're eating less calories, right? So Therefore, you're going to lose weight if you're eating less calories. Because if you've watched previous videos with me or you've ever coached with me, it really is calorie output over calorie intake. That's always going to be your equation for losing or gaining weight. So knowing that means, of course, if you're fasting, you're going to be eating less calories during those times. So that's number one. There's a couple other things that fasting does for your body that helps with weight loss. First of all, it helps to promote human growth hormone. So your human growth hormone is produced by the pituitary gland, mostly when you're developing, child into adulthood. But then what it does is it will regulate a lot of other systems in your body. So it's going to regulate fluids, muscles, bone. Almost everything in your body, that hormone regulates the function of it. So when you get a boost of your HGH, then it allows your body to function more properly, allows your metabolism to stay higher, and it helps regulate all the other, parts of your body. So the body composition, how you burn fat. So by increasing that hormone, you're doing a lot of positives. They're going to help get your body into weight loss or a fat loss zone. The other thing that fasting can do is it will also help to decrease insulin levels, which help to, of course, reduce insulin sensitivity. So most people that gain weight and have a hard time losing it tend to exhibit criteria to be insulin resistant. So what that means is insulin is a hormone that comes in and it opens up your cell, allows you to put glucose in it, and then it puts that glucose all over your body to use as energy. Well, when you become insulin resistant, your cell doesn't open up anymore. It tries to put insulin tries to open up the cell to put the glucose in, and it doesn't. So what happens is that glucose then gets turned into fat, stored random places throughout your body. Okay, so when that happens, of course, you're going to gain weight, and then because you have insulin resistance, it's going to be hard to lose weight. So you want to re-regulate that. So fasting again will help that happen. And then the other thing that it's been known to help too is just inflammation. Now this is more of a possibly help inflammation. The idea is that if you're not intaking a lot of the foods that cause inflammation on a more regular basis, then you're going to reduce inflammation. Again, that's also how it helps with your hormones and insulin resistance as well. If you're not eating a lot of those foods anymore that are causing those ailments, then you're going to get better and you're going to lose weight. There's lots of other, if you Google it, there's lots of different other, possible, great things that can happen from doing intermittent fasting. But I didn't list them all here because it's all contingent on a couple of factors, which is going to kind of move into our drawbacks here. So there's a lot of great benefits is really what I want you to take away from here. Intermittent fasting is not necessarily a bad way to do your eating pattern. It can be a very beneficial way. But let's talk about the drawbacks, because I think this is going to be a really important factor to make you understand whether this is the right, eating plan for you. Some of the drawbacks from, intermittent fasting is if people are unable to continue in a consistent pattern. So suppose you're doing your 16-8, 16-8, 16-8. Now, if you can keep that up and going, great, then you might find a more successful outcome. If you don't, you might find yourself in a place where, if you did like 12 one day, 16 on the other, that lack of consistency is going to change how your body processes your hormones, how your body processes food. So you might find yourself not actually completing things the way that you want to complete them. So that's a really important factor because if you're the kind of person that does not follow patterns very well, then this is probably not the way for you to go. So another drawback from doing intermittent fasting is there's a very, very high probability of plateau or even weight gain. Why? If you're coming off 16 hours of fasting and you don't come off the right way and you eat too much food and you're taking in more calories than you had anyway, you're going to gain weight. It's just fasting isn't going to make the weight lose itself. You're still either gaining or losing weight based on the calories you take in. So if you come off your fast and you're eating 3,000 calories in an 8-hour period of time, it doesn't matter if you ate it in 8 hours or you ate it in 12 hours, you still ate 3,000 calories. So that's a huge drawback if you don't have your eating habits in line before you jump into intermittent fasting. Another drawback is just overall lack of energy. If you're not eating for 16 hours, depending on when you place your fasting period, you're going to just not have the energy necessarily to complete tasks, so that can be a huge drawback. Also, just the feeling of isolation. Not everyone is on an intermittent fasting schedule. So you might be going out to dinner with a lot of people for work or for a social gathering, and you may not be able to eat anything. And that feeling sometimes causes a little feeling of isolation. And then the last thing to kind of think about, drawbacks, not everybody is right for intermittent fasting. So if you have any kind of, like for example, diabetes, if you need to have a certain amount of, food in your system at certain points, doing something like this type of intermittent fasting program, you'd find yourself maybe not being able to keep up at the same pace, or you might have to break it because you have to, raise insulin levels or drop them. So it's really, there's not a lot of cases. The situation is not great for everybody. So it's really important that if you do something like this, that you talk to your doctor, you talk to professionals that you work with to understand if this is the right, program for you to follow. Now, as far as, who is this program right for? This is, something we absolutely need to talk about. So obviously, if you're looking to lose weight, it's an option for you. If I'm just looking to lose weight, fat loss in general, this is a great option because it at least gives you a hard line. It says, okay, at 5 o'clock, I can't eat anymore, right? And then at 8 a.m., I'm going to eat again, or whatever the time, period would be for you. So there's a lot of easier ways to have discipline when it's just a no, a hard line no. I call it the hard no when I talk to my clients. Sometimes that method works best for people. So in that case, it could be very beneficial if you want to lose weight. Another person or type of person that this would be great for, somebody who already has a really good grasp of what healthy food looks like. Here's the reality. When you come out of your fast, there are going to be right and wrong things to eat going into a fast and coming out of a fast. So, and that's kind of going into my next point here on my slide. If you don't have those great eating habits in place, or at least a good healthy idea and understanding of it, you're going to find yourself coming out of a fast starving and just eating everything in sight, right? You're going to put yourself in a position where you might actually end up gaining weight or not losing weight at all because you overeat when the time is there. So having good eating habits and knowing how to approach it is, I would say, the gold nugget of this entire thing. So if you have a pen and paper with you, I suggest you pull it out. So first of all, you want to make sure that before you go into a fast, that you have a nice high fiber meal. And because you want your body to be able to be processing and breaking food down over a long period of time, so you feel hungry less of the time that you're fasting. So a high fiber, healthy, whole protein, and vegetables. I mean, that is what you're looking at. So you're looking at a baked sweet potato, some asparagus, and a nice piece of lean chicken or lean fish, something like that. That would be the meal that you would finish before you go into your fast. That way you have a lot and you're satiated for a lot longer period of time. Then, of course, coming out of your fast, you want to try to stay away from too big of a carbohydrate. You want to focus more on a lean protein, on some healthier fats. So maybe focusing more on some vegetables or yogurt or nuts, fresh fruit. So your initial meal coming out of a fast should not be your biggest meal of the day. It should be kind of a way to ease yourself back in. Maybe curb some of the appetite you're already feeling. And then your next meal, maybe a couple hours after that, could be a more nutrient dense and even a little bit more carbohydrates involved in it as well. So those are to just give you an idea. So having a grasp of that is going to make intermittent fasting more effective for you, which is key. And then, of course, the last thing, who's it perfect for? Like I said before, if you are good with patterns, if you're good with being okay, this is my daily routine, I'm good with routines, then this is a great pattern for you because all you're doing is you're asking yourself to fill in the blanks to a pattern that's kind of set for you. So those are my recommendations on people who would benefit from intermittent fasting. Like I said before, it's not necessarily a bad or good program, and as long as it's a good program for you. So if it fits your criteria of what will be beneficial, then you're going to find a lot of success from it. And it could be something that changes your life. So if you get an opportunity to do an intermittent fasting program and you hit all those checkpoints, ding, 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 do it, because most likely you're going to find a lot of benefit from it. If you got halfway through this video and you were like, I'm never going to follow a time schedule, whatever, I'm not going to learn about food or how to eat right or whatever. If you're not taking those steps, then I would say that it's not the right thing for you to jump into, because it will just put you in a place where maybe you're going to be set up for failure or even setbacks. So that's my talk on intermittent fasting. I hope it was very informative for you and overwhelmingly great and important in your life. But of course, I'll be back next week with another topic. Like I said, subscribe to my channel, like this video if you found it helpful, and then of course, check out my website. I got lots of programs going all the time. I'm a health coach, so a lot of, personal clients and then group classes, and I'm just all over the place. So like I said, guys, it's always a pleasure. I so appreciate you showing up and taking the time to watch my videos. I'll see you next time. See you next week.